All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly incredible piece of source material, one that absolutely bridges the gap between ancient tradition and modern analytical thought. We're going to be exploring the acoustic science, the surprisingly progressive universal sociology, and the really profound philosophy hidden within the Gayatri Sadhana text. If you've ever looked at these ancient practices and thought they were just, simple or archaic rituals, well, you are in for a serious paradigm shift today.
To get our heads around all this complex material, we're going to follow a pretty straightforward path. We'll start with the science of Gayatri and sound frequencies, then we'll pivot into universal rights, and finally, we'll wrap up by decoding those sacred symbols.
Okay, let's hit section 1, the science of Gayatri Mantra beyond mere words.
So the really crucial point right off the bat is that the source text explicitly uses the term mantra vigyan, which literally translates to mantra science. The text is specifically built to legitimize this practice for the modern analytical mind. It completely shifts how we're supposed to look at it. It's telling us, hey, these mantras, they aren't just religious poetry or nicely spoken words, they are precise acoustic formulas. The power relies entirely on the extraordinary energy of sound waves that are generated the moment these specific syllables are vocalized.
And if you look at the book's actual index, it visually bridges these seemingly opposite ideas. You've got entire chapters dedicated to the chamatkari, the magical acoustic power of words, sitting right side by side with hardcore scientific foundations. The source material intentionally marries the emotional and spiritual background of the Gayatri with strict acoustic mechanics. It's just a wonderfully comprehensive approach to understanding how human intention actually mixes with physical sound.
Moving right along to section 2, sound and extraordinary waves, the frequencies of the universe.
The text doesn't just rely on vague metaphors here. It actually grounds this stuff in hard numbers. It points out that normal human hearing is physically limited. We only catch between 100 and 300 vibrations per second. Think about that for a second. Everything you hear, every conversation you have, every piece of music you love, exists entirely within that tiny, narrow biological window. But the universe of sound is so much larger than what our physical ears can actually process. And this brings us to the text's core concept of supersonic sound. We've got our normal human hearing boxed into that 100 to 300 limit, right? But then on the flip side, you have these supersonic frequencies that exist completely outside our biological limits. The text asserts that mantras operate on these extraordinary vibratory levels. They generate waves that ripple out into the atmosphere, interacting directly with cosmic energy. So even if our physical ears can't perceive the full spectrum of these vibrations, the acoustic science detailed in the text claims they are profoundly impacting both the environment and the practitioner.
All right, section 3, universal right to worship, a progressive society.
Now that we know these waves are real, we've got to ask a massive sociological question that the text tackles in its Doubts and Solutions chapter. Who actually gets to use this stuff? For centuries, historical and societal misconceptions led people to believe that access to these powerful, supersonic mantras was highly restricted, like it was some kind of exclusive club. But the source material impartially and systematically shatters those barriers, addressing those societal doubts head-on.
Straight from the source, we get an incredibly inclusive, totally universal framework. The text explicitly outlines that women have the absolute right to the Gayatri, no questions asked. It also tackles the Varnas, or caste system, stating point-blank that it's based strictly on a person's karma, their actions and their nature, and absolutely not on their birth. Because of that, all of humanity is equally entitled to this acoustic science. By treating the mantra as a universal law of physics and spirituality, the text basically concludes there is no way it can be gatekept from any human being.
Finally, let's hit section 4, sacred thread and yagna, decoding the symbols.
So if this science belongs to everyone, how is it actually represented in daily life? I absolutely love this metaphor from the text. The author points out that, physically, a sacred thread might cost you literally a few pennies at the market. It's just cheap string. But you're not supposed to look at it as just a string hanging on your shoulder. Behind it lies a profound philosophy. It acts as a priceless badge of divine duty. It's like a uniform, right? Just as a uniform signifies the responsibilities of a public servant, this simple thread is a constant, physical reminder of your commitment to this higher science and universal duty.
The text does the exact same thing with the concept of yajna. If you're not familiar, yajna is often looked at as just this temporary fire ceremony, but the text begs to differ. It asks us to look way deeper. It presents yajna as the ultimate, constant companion that tracks the entirety of the human journey. It is deeply, deeply woven into the fabric of life, going far beyond just the smoke and the fire.
Look at how the text maps out yajna's constant presence across an entire human life. Year 0, the 16 sanskars start right at birth, and yajna's there. Every 12 months, at the spring harvest of Holi, there's the tradition of the Navana yajna to bless the new crops. Later in life, at the marriage altar, the fire is the divine witness actually joining two souls together. And finally, in our final hour on the funeral pyre, the text beautifully and poetically describes the body resting in the lap of Yajnapita, the father of the fire. From your very first breath to your absolute last, it is your constant spiritual anchor.
Which brings us to our final thought today. After unpacking all of this, ask yourself, when you look at these ancient practices, what are you actually seeing? Are you just seeing physical traditions, just a cheap thread, or burning debris at a spring festival? Or are you missing the deeper acoustic science, the totally inclusive social framework, and the profound divine unity that's sitting right underneath the surface? It might just be time to rediscover the incredible universe of meaning hidden right in plain sight. Thanks so much for exploring this amazing material with me.